Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down, and yes, finally back in for a little Spooktober action. Oh, man. Having so much fun this October, as all month long I check out different scary, spooky Halloween movies to watch and review with you guys. And so far, it's been a blast. I really have loved the turnout and response from you guys. I love talking horror movies and Halloween movies with you guys. And I'm pumped to keep moving forward as we head on down our countdown toward Halloween, October 31st. And as you can see, the Spooktober run this year, I think it's been a pretty good mix of new and older and scary and thrilling and chilling and haunting and just fun Halloween movies. And we certainly are sticking in the realm of chilling and haunting with this one. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in to Amulet. And this is a movie that I wanted to review a couple months ago when I watched it and then just didn't have a chance to. I was like, how can I bring Amulet back around in a way that'll make it worthy of just talking about it all of a sudden? I was like, ooh, Spooktober, and I'll follow it right off Relic, because that's how I did it in real life. The whole reason I came across Amulet in the first place was a friend of mine had sent me a list early on in the year. Rotten Tomatoes, I think by like March or April, had like put out a list of top horror movies of the year so far, and Amulet was on that list. And then when I watched Relic, Amulet was suggested there on Amazon, and I was really captured by the poster. The poster is of Sister Claire, played by Imelda Staunton, and as she's standing there, the headpiece that she wears has like bat wings coming out of it. So spooky. I was just like, ooh, I'm so intrigued just off the image. And boy, oh boy, the image certainly lines up with the movie, but nothing in a million years could have had me ready for what Amulet brings you. And this comes to us from first-time writer-director Romola Garai. Garai had done a short prior to this, and then this was her first dive into a featured film. And I think she's had an acting career since like the early 2000s, based on what IMDb was saying. Nothing jumped out at me, so I'm like, keep acting if you like acting, but this, I think, might be the realm you want to go. The writing and directing on this is really good. And something that I really haven't seen from too many female directors is diving into the world of body horror and examining it in the prism that they're examining it in this movie. For those unfamiliar with Amulet, this follows an ex-soldier living homeless in London. He gets offered a place to stay at a decaying house inhabited by a young woman and her dying mother. As he starts to fall for the young woman, he can't ignore his suspicion that something sinister is going on with the mother. And basically, he kind of ends up in like these like different areas where there's a bunch of squatters, and one of the buildings burns down. And as he gets out of that kind of hurt, this woman, Sister Claire, kind of takes him in, cleans him up, gets him a fresh meal, and then gives him an opportunity to live and work on this house that's basically just decaying and falling down. And the way that Garai tells the story is really fascinating, because it's a combination of the story with this house and with this woman, Magda, who's played by Carla Jury, and bouncing back and forth from that story for our lead, Tomas, played by Alec Secrano, and some sort of a past story. He has a beard in the main part of the movie, and when you jump backwards, he's clean-shaven. And you can tell that he's a soldier. He's at this post, and he has this whole story with this woman. And the entire movie bounces back and forth. And as the love interest in Magda begins to kind of pick up the same simultaneously as picking up with this woman that he's helping in these flashbacks. And it is just a really creepy, haunting movie. Like, there's weird stuff going on. Like, we get glimpses of the mother, and she is like decaying old, and just strange noises and lots of weird things with Magda. And Garai just puts us in lots of uncomfortable positions. Working around this house, the way that it's decaying and falling down, it just creates a lot of really spooky elements. And specifically, all of the filming around Secrano and his Tomas. is just so good, man. Like, he really pops on screen, and like I said, as our main character, this kind of bouncing back and forth between the present and this past story, and clearly, all the emotions and things that are going into it. He ends up on kind of one of these roller coasters that leads him towards some kind of madness. And it's not necessarily that the character is experiencing a madness, but the physical look of the character as you kind of go through kind of has someone who's slowly spiraling out. And the twists, turns, and secrets of this movie are really, really interesting and really, really creepy. I think Garai does a wonderful job of taking this kind of psychedelic body horror movie and telling a story that is totally about forgiveness and for when you've done something wrong and who has the right to give you that forgiveness, and how actions can really affect the outcome of anybody's story. And it's happening with all of our different characters. All of them are going through different things, and the choices and decisions they make, they all have repercussions. And the movie takes a really, really interesting look at that concept through this kind of horror realm that mixes in some really interesting creatures. It's kind of like a bat-type rat creature that we see a few times in the movie, and it is creepy looking, but that combination mixed with the body horror elements, just really, really good. And it's not like overtly grotesque body horror. A lot of it is actually happening where you're seeing it happen, but physically not seeing every element of what's happening, and that to a degree is almost creepier than what you get. And when you get to the end of the movie and everything is finally revealed at what is really going on here, like I said, I think the story that Garai is trying to tell and what she has to say about abuse and forgiveness and, like I said, doing right and wrong in the world is just a really, really interesting conversation to be had through this particular prism. And the other thing that Garai gets here are three really, really awesome performances. Like I said, Sacrino is our lead, Tomas, and he's a very interesting character. Like I said, I really enjoy the storytelling of this bouncing back and forth of his story as we kind of slowly start to piece everything together as he's like repiecing this house together. But kind of just watching these two relationships that he has going on in the movie as you're bouncing back and forth from present and past, and how that ties into his story and into the overall story, I just thought really worked quite well. And Sacrino does a great job on screen. He really embodies this idea of, dealing with forgiveness and the wrongs that he's done and how that's affected him personally. There's a lot of physical acting to what he's doing, and overall, I just thought he was really interesting on screen the whole time. His co-lead, Carla Jury, who plays Magda, is phenomenal. Really, really subtle, nuanced things to her role and to the character, because the things that are going on, there's a bit of mystery to all of the characters in the movie. And as Jury kind of plays with that and gets us down the home stretch in the end of the movie, I just really like what she does. And like I said, all of it is kind of subtle and nuanced because Magda is really soft-spoken and kind of reserved and a little bit timid. And watching her and Tomas kind of feel each other out, like we've been thrown into the situation where two strangers were now living in the same house and trying to find that trust between each other, and then just watching how that relationship kind of grows as Tomas is working there. I just really liked what Jury was doing. And then Imelda Staunton, I love her. She's probably my favorite part about this movie. And it's specifically what she does throughout the whole first two acts. And then when she comes in at the end, there's a bit of a shift to her character to a degree. And the level of fun and enjoyment she has out of delivering what she delivers at the end of the movie really strikes home the poignancy and the things that the movie is getting at, and just allows Staunton to have so much fun on screen. And that's the thing that really works. Like, from these three performances surrounded with, a really well put together movie for a first time filmmaker, I think you get something pretty solid here. And the house, again, we've had a lot of this Spooktober. The house is totally its own character. And the way the house kind of plays into it, like I said, the rotting and decaying, and the things that you find in the house and things connected to the house, like dirty water and things, they just, and the lighting. There's no electricity in the house, so there's a lot of candle and lamp lighting that really creates a spooky ambiance for everything that's going on in the house. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the house. But I like the fact that you can kind of have this candlelit spooky ambiance downstairs, and when you go upstairs to where Magda's mother is, it's much darker and more of a pale palette. And I really like that contrast on screen and the things that they do with Magda's mother. Some of the most disturbing stuff out of that movie comes around that character, and I just thought it was really, really well executed within the story, again, that Garai is telling. And I just think she kind of nails all of these things where I'm like, first time out, this is where you're jumping in at? Like, this is the story you're trying to tackle and deliver it in this, like, terrifyingly creepy way. I thought it just kind of paid off in pretty much all of the spots that it needed to. And at the end of the day, Amulet is a creepy freaking movie, man. And how the amulet ties into the story. There is an amulet to a degree, this kind of talisman almost, that does play into the story. And how that plays in, that kind of brings us to more of the psychedelic-y type things in the movie. And there's not a ton of that. It's very, very minimal. But it does kind of focus around the amulet and what that means and how that plays and where the amulet ends up by the end of the movie. Were all things I was like, ooh, girl, I like what you're doing. So for me, Amulet is, a creepy, disturbing kind of a movie. And it's very mellow. It's not like overly disturbing, but like as everything kind of slowly unfolds, you're just like, oh, man, no. And if you're squeamish, there are probably a couple elements to the movie where you're going to be like, all those things really work for me. And I thought for a first timer, we really got something solid out of Romola Garai, and I certainly look forward to whatever she's doing in the writing and directing world going forward. So there you go, man. Those are all my thoughts on Amulet. Certainly a really interesting look at how you can use horror to tell a bigger story. And I dug it, man. The creepy stuff is creepy. But the question is, what are you thinking? Have you had a chance to take a look at Amulet? Is jumping into Amulet the first time you've done it for Spooktober, if you're following along? What are your thoughts? This movie, I think, is one of those movies that could rub people the wrong way because of the type of horror that it's diving into. And it's one of those things that's a real tightrope to walk to nail it. And, I think there are things that are certainly working in this movie, even if some of the storytelling elements can get a little muddied sometimes and trying to keep some of those secrets. I guess that's the one thing I did almost forget to mention. There are some of the storytelling elements that are a little bit jumbled, but I think that kind of plays into the overall like off-balance feeling that you're supposed to get. But if that didn't work for you, if it did work for you, anything good, bad, the body horror stuff, the creepy, the regular scares, and the story that Garai is trying to tell, let me know if that worked or didn't work for you down below in the comment section. If you haven't seen Amulet, have we enticed you to check it out this Spooktober? Certainly let me know that too. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man the rest of Spooktober, show a little love support for the channel, then come join the rest of the C-Maniacs by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want the alerts. And until next time, for the C-Mans, Cinema Sit Down, I'm the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace! You guys are still here? You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.